What advice would you give to people that are in their 30s or entering their 30s about how to operate in life?
I think it's really situational. I don't think there's a user's manual. I think there's some best practices, and I don't think it's that much different than in your 20s. The first is very primal. I think every person in their 20s and 30s should lift heavy weights and run long distances in their brain and in the gym. Push yourself really hard. When you're in your 20s and 30s, you don't even realize. How old are you?
34.
Okay, so like you look like a beast. And in 20 years, you're just going to look back on how strong you were and just marvel at it. And you're going to wish as strong as you were that you even push yourself harder. I rode crew, and it was such a valuable part of my life. I did it at the age of 19. And I remember in the midst of a race, it's a 2,000-meter race. And I remember not being able to feel my legs, starting to black out and having to concentrate on not blacking out from exhaustion. And the oxygen or the air going down my esophagus was on fire.
Tastes like blood and metal in your throat, yeah.
And that was at 800 meters, and you go 2,000. And that ability, just when you think you can't take any more, that means you're about a third of the way to your limits as a human, as a species. Learning that as a young man or woman is a blessing, because what it means is you have the confidence that when things are hard, physically, emotionally, mentally, you realize, oh my God, I could take so much more and still be fine. And when I worked, my first job was at Morgan Stanley, an investment bank. And I was undereducated relative to my peer group, not because I didn't go to a great school. I went to UCLA, but I spent the majority of my 5 years there making bongs out of household items and watching Planet of the Apes. So I wasn't as skilled as my peer group. So I decided every Tuesday morning I was going to come into work, and I wasn't going to leave till Wednesday night. And I'm like, I can do that. I'm physically really strong. I'm mentally really strong. And it sent a signal to the rest of the organization that I came to play. Develop that kind of grit and strength emotionally, physically, and intellectually in your 20s and 30s. You're capable of it. You're just going to look back on that era and be like, just marvel at how out of fucking control strong you are, both mentally and physically. 2, get to a city if you can. And that sounds very practical or rote, but you'd rather be good in a big city than great in a small city. Before you collect dogs and kids, being in a city is like playing tennis with Roger Federer or Nadal. When you play with people much better than you, your game gets much better. You're playing against the best when you're in a city.
So what Scott said here is dead on. I remember being in my 20s, waking up, being in a warehouse, slinging boxes at 5 a.m. I was making like $13 an hour, and I knew that wasn't going to be life for me. So when I would get off from work, I would spend my time studying for different tech certifications. I remember going entire days with no sleep. I would just stay up studying for different certifications. But within a couple years, I had knocked out a couple different CompTIA certifications. I got some Cisco certifications, and I was able to be a full-time network engineer making 6 figures in my mid-20s. And I can tell you, as somebody who's much older and not in my 20s anymore, I'm definitely thankful that I put in all that time and I grinded in my 20s. So I thought that was a great clip. Just wanted to cover it for a minute. I appreciate you guys, and please, if you haven't already, like and subscribe.